There are endless number of ways to spend Rolex money. You can get a chronograph, a GMT, a date, a fluted bezel, some gold, or even a rainbow of diamonds. Or you can just get a watch that tells you the time. Meet the Rolex Oyster Perpetual 28, reference 276200. And this is probably as close as you'd get to Rolex distilled down to its essentials. At 28 millimeters across, this is obviously a small watch. And I think that's important to acknowledge right away. This isn't a 36 millimeter watch that happens to look a little smaller. This is a genuinely petite Rolex. And that might be one of the things that sets itself apart. The silver dial is just about as understated as Rolex gets. There's no date window, no cyclops, no oversized branding, no paragraph of text trying to convince you that this is a serious piece of horological equipment. Just 3 hands, hour markers, and that little crown at 12. A combination it pulls off quite well. The dial has a subtle sunray-finish, so as you move it around, you get this soft change in the way the light reflects across the dial. It's not trying to be flashy. It's just enough texture to stop it from looking flat. And I think the lack of a date complication is one of the best things about the Oyster Perpetual. Everything is symmetrical. Nothing interrupts the dial. It's just clean. Then you get to the case, and this is where Rolex engineering starts to show. You've got the classic Oyster architecture, a monoblock case, screw-down case back, screw-down twin-lock crown, sapphire crystal, and 100 meters of water resistance. So while this looks like a relatively delicate watch, it isn't really. It's still an Oyster. And that's one of the things I like about the Oyster Perpetual. Rolex didn't take a small watch and make it delicate. They took their fundamental formula and scaled it down. It's basically the watch equivalent of putting a small engine in a very well-built car and then wondering why it still feels over-engineered. And underneath all of this is the Rolex Caliber 2232. This is an automatic mechanical movement with about 55 hours of power reserve, a Siloxy silicone hairspring, Paraflex shock absorbers, and the ever-present superlative chronometer certification. So despite the simplicity of the dial, there's actually a lot going on underneath. And that's probably the biggest contradiction with this watch, and more generally the entire family of OPs. It looks simple. It's not simple. The crown is also a good example of that. You've got the Rolex twin lock system, which screws down against the case to help maintain that 100 meters of water resistance. It's a small detail, but it's part of what makes this something you can genuinely wear every day. And then there's the bracelet. The Oyster bracelet is one of those things that Rolex has had decades to get right, and it really shows. 3-piece, solid links, smooth articulation, and the Oyster clasp with the EasyLink 5mm comfort extension. It's not the most complicated bracelet in the world, and it really doesn't need to be. It's one of those cases where Rolex has taken something relatively simple and spent an unreasonable amount of time making it really, really good. And I think that's basically the story of this entire watch. Now on my 6.5-inch wrist, 28mm is definitely on the small side. I don't believe Rolex explicitly indicates that this is a lady's piece, like they do sometimes with the Lady Datejust models, but this one is fairly direct in its intentions. The 10mm thickness with a short lug-to-lug of 33, or 37 if you count the end links, keeps everything tucked nicely onto the wrist without any wrist overhang, something that's extremely underrated when it comes to properly sizing a watch. And there's something refreshing about watches this small. We're so used to watches getting bigger and bigger that coming across a 28mm piece momentarily takes you back to an era when small was the norm. You get what it might have felt like to put on a watch during a time gone by. Except this one has a modern Rolex movement, sapphire crystal, 100 meters of water resistance, and a bracelet that could probably outlive anyone watching this video. It's also worth remembering where the term Oyster Perpetual comes from. The name traces directly back to the introduction of the oyster case in 1926, when Rolex described it as the world's first waterproof wristwatch. The perpetual part comes from the self-winding movement that followed. So really, you're wearing the foundation of Rolex on your wrist. You don't have the date of the Datejust. You don't have the rotating bezel of a Submariner. You don't have the chronograph of a Daytona. You don't even have a GMT hand. But you're getting the oyster on an oyster bracelet, an in-house automatic movement, superlative chronometer certification, and that unmistakable Rolex design language. This is what makes the OP such an interesting watch. It's Rolex without the accessories. And Rolex watches tend to have a certain aura that they seem to be engineered so that everyone within a 10-foot radius knows there's one around. But the reality of the OP is that it's quite the opposite. The Oyster Perpetual doesn't engage in theatrics to stand out, because sometimes the best Rolex is the one that doesn't try to be anything other than a really, really good watch.